It's Micah McCaw.
Whoa, that's an excited intro.
And who are you?
Jordan McCaw.
We're
Not as excited, I
We're
guess.
married, and it's November, and I mean, if all the polls are right this week, we have a new president come January. This is the McCaw Podcast universe, and we cover film franchises. Is that correct, Jordan?
That is correct.
And we exist to prove people wrong when they say that sequels are never better than the originals. Now, so far, in the Terminator franchise, we have not found that to be the case, even though people claim Terminator 2 is one of the best sequels ever made.
It is good. It is definitely good.
It's great, even. But you and I definitely preferred the first one still.
Yeah.
There's a magic about it that I think there's a magic about the second one too, but there's just a magic that really works for me in that first one.
Yep.
So today we're testing our theory again.
Yep.
But now James Cameron is out of the equation. And I'm going to go through the notes on why, but James Cameron has nothing to do with this movie.
His hands are clean.
At all. No producer credit, no writing credit, nothing. So
is the next movie after T2 Titanic?
Yeah.
Wow.
No. He does.
Oh, no, it's
True Lies.
True Lies.
Following year, T2 3D Battle Across Time. Quick plug for patreon.com/MICAHMCCAW, where we covered that amusement attraction. And once he's done with that, Cameron's like, okay, I'm excited and I'm ready to write and start working on Terminator 3.
Oh.
Giving you a nice little tease before we really get into it.
Okay.
So he was ready to go on that, and then he does Titanic, and
the rest is history.
The rest is history, and that movie is history about history.
Yep, about a big boat.
Big boat.
And a sweet old lady.
And a sweet, sweet old lady named Rose. But as we go, what is your experience with this movie, Jordan?
None.
So last night, or 2 nights ago, was the first time you saw it.
First time ever seeing any second of this movie.
Okay, well then let me tell you about my first time.
Okay.
I was very young, and I think it was playing on Fox, maybe? Fox, like the channel. And they were, it was just on TV, like normal commercials and all that stuff. And I saw, I didn't know that this was a part of a franchise or any. I might have seen, because the audience, I don't think knows this. My parents they still do. They print out the TV guide, or they would cut it out of the newspaper. And back in the day, it made sense. Right now, I don't know why they do it.
Yeah.
And they don't have cable, by the way, folks. So
neither do we.
No, they don't have cable, and yet they print out the TV guide. It's like, what are you talking about? They do the classic
antenna to get the channels from far away. They still are doing that thing.
Yeah, and they will highlight
things they want to watch.
Which means
that they take time out of I know Lyle's listening to this. They take time out of their day to look through the TV guide and highlight what they want to watch.
Yeah, it's so wild to me. Like, it's so antiquated.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I was watching it. It was on TV, and there's the part where Arnold shows up into the strip club, and he goes, what does he say?
Give me your clothes. Something like that.
And then the stripper goes, talk to the hand.
Yeah,
and
then
he
says it with attitude.
Yeah, and
talk to the hand.
Well, and he does say wait your turn, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean,
because he's stripping.
We should mention that Arnold's naked in this scene. So a naked man walks in when I know we're gonna talk about this, but it's really funny to me. So he is transported to the past naked, as we've seen, and he goes to what looks like a bar, which is kind of like, classic. He's going into a bar to mess
just like
with
the
bikers.
last movie. Okay,
and the bouncer's like, go around back.
Yeah.
And you're like, huh? And he goes inside, and it's just a strip club.
And it's ladies' night.
Like ladies' night. And he's naked, so if anything, he's like fitting in.
That's a funny bit, right? Do we like that bit?
I think it's a funny bit.
Okay.
I think it's funny, especially like you just said, he goes up to the guy to get his clothes, and the guy says, wait your turn. Because he's naked. Like, it's just assuming that this guy is a stripper. What's funny is when he gets the clothes, it's like, okay, for the rest of the movie, I know that he's wearing like easy pull apart clothes.
Which they don't really take advantage of.
No, they don't.
For another bit that could have been funny. But one thing that really strikes me, like, so he says, talk to the hand. Arnold grabs the hand and says, now. And as a kid, that is just an absolute, like, 10 out of 10 joke. How funny is that?
It's funny.
Talk to the hand, and he doesn't know any better, so he just talks to the hand. And so I was like, that's really funny. This is like a funny movie. And then I don't remember seeing anything in between. All I remember after that is seeing the crane sequence.
Okay, the crazy crane sequence.
Yeah, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, whatever this Terminator thing is really cool.
I want in.
Yeah, and then I never saw another thing Terminator related. I didn't finish this movie. None of that until, like, I was like a year out of high school, and I thought, oh, I should watch The Terminator. That's a classic movie. How weird is that?
Pretty weird.
And the other thing I do want to point out, which is another funny bit, is how in Terminator 2, when he walks out of the bar and he's got the clothes and stuff, the music is Bad to the Bone.
Yeah.
And when he walks out of the bar of this one, it's playing Macho Man. Like, Macho Man.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
So that's my experience. So the couple nights ago when we watched it, that was the first time I saw this movie.
Cool.
So do you...
This franchise. First time you saw this franchise as a whole.
That's true. Yeah. Do you have any like initial thoughts you want to give before we start setting the table here?
Yeah, I think that if you're this whole franchise is a really interesting story and premise right off the bat. But the more movies you make, it'll inevitably become much more convoluted. And I'm really only interested in the Sarah and John Connor stuff.
Yeah.
And this movie, it's like, oh, you're just muddying the waters.
Yeah.
And it's like really, it's kind of confusing to figure out what's going on because how the last movie ended, it's like, oh, they're done. They did it. And,
right.
you know, they had to take some like little stuff back or just, you know, re-explain how it didn't work exactly the way they wanted it to, all these things. And it wasn't exactly the cool, like you prevent something from happening in the future. And because you did that, now this even worse thing happens. It's not exactly like that. Yeah,
I guess they could have done that.
And maybe they do in another movie.
Yeah,
but because this is just the exposition's just like, okay, can you crash a car?
Yeah, I feel like the retconning nature of this movie doesn't. That's what fails for me.
Yeah.
The movie itself, I don't think I wouldn't go so far as to say it's bad. Like on Letterboxd, I gave it a heart, and I said,
"What does that mean?
Like I like
is
it.
That 1 star? Oh, okay.
I don't do the stars anymore. I just do
right.
or not like, and then I do 5 out of 5 if I think it's perfect. So I press like, and I said, but with a big asterisk. Listen to Macabre Podcast Universe to find out why. And also, I still had to figure it out. But I think the movie as a whole is like a pretty good movie. There's like some very solid action in this movie.
Very solid action, yeah.
But I think what it's missing is like they just, like you said, they just go, oh yeah, that whole thing, everything that they fought for in the last 2 movies, it actually didn't matter. They had to fight for it again.
Yeah.
And it just didn't, it felt very unearned. It felt very like they hired someone to write this and they needed to make a sequel.
Yeah. And I think I'm glad to know that, so like Cameron's not involved. And you said, I think in a previous episode, like Dark Fate is like technically the 3rd movie. Like if you were going to look at it like a diehard fan. This is what you're telling. This is what you told me.
This is what I understand.
This is how you
when
understand
I do the
it.
Notes, I might discover something
so
different.
I'm just kind of looking at it through that lens a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, because I'm choosing to, whether or not it's really true, because I don't like that Sarah Connor's not in this movie.
Yeah. Well, and Dark Fate is when Cameron returns as producer. So that's another reason why, because he doesn't produce 3, 4, or 5.
I can't wait to watch the Christian Bale one.
Yeah, maybe we'll watch it tonight.
That's the first and only one I had seen leading up, and until I saw Terminator. That was like the first Terminator movie I saw. And full disclosure and admitting that I watched that movie only because Christian Bale was in it.
Hey, we all have those. But
everyone's watched a movie just because Christian Bale's in it.
The thing about this movie, and sometimes I save this for the end, but I think it might be fun to talk about it up front before we get into production, is that, because I'm just trying to think, When we chose this series, I thought this is a really fascinating series because it doesn't make sense to me that they made any more after the second movie.
Yeah.
But then watching the ride, which is only available on our Patreon, and
It's
then
not a ride though.
yes, but watching those things and seeing the box office and stuff, I go, okay, now I understand why they keep trying to make these movies.
Yeah.
I do understand that now. And there's always such a long period of time in between them, except for Genesis and Dark Fate, that you kind of go, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But having said all that, so I'm sitting down to watch this movie, and I think that this movie needed, which I think they tried to do with the dad in the military, I think it needed to start with a character like, I forget his first name, but Miles from Terminator 2.
Yeah, Dyson.
Miles Dyson. I think we needed someone who is outside of any relation to previous Terminator stuff.
Yeah.
Who either discovers old tech, which wouldn't make sense because they did make sure they destroyed all of it, but like makes a new computer system or something, and like the movie just keeps going to this guy, and maybe we don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like he's the guy who makes this new threat or something.
Yeah.
I can't get past that all the way, but I think that's what it's lacking, because basically if you look at this movie, it's the plot of Terminator 2, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the same movie we just saw, just not done as good.
Mm-hmm. This so far, I feel like the farther we go on, the more it's going to be the Jurassic Park rules to me.
Yeah.
You should have never made a second movie.
A third movie.
Maybe not even a second.
Well,
I know that the second's really good, and I'm not saying it's not, but it's like the ideas are so good and so pure.
Uh-huh.
Why don't we just keep it that way? Like, we watched Upgrade last night, which is I would consider a small sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
They tackle very crazy, interesting things. Directed by Lee Winnell, of course.
Yes.
And it's like I apparently there's going to be a show. I'm kind of into that, actually. But that being said, I don't want a franchise of Upgrade.
That's interesting.
But
and I get what you're saying.
I just because we have, I mean, this whole podcast is kind of based around these things where you have this really cool idea, and it's like, how could it not be cool twice? And so many times it's not.
Yeah.
Or 5 times or 7 times. Like, maybe just make another cool sci-fi movie that's original.
And I love that.
That being said,
Upgrade,
though, a show sounds interesting. Not another movie, but a show.
Either one is great for me. I would say Upgrade, and there was going to be some spoilers for Upgrade, because now I want to talk about Upgrade. Upgrade 2 is probably my number one like dream sequel, I would say. If I could, out of a series that doesn't have any sequels.
Well, because of how it ended, you can make a sequel. That's what you're getting at.
I remember leaving the theaters being like, that is a perfect ending. They don't have to make more, but if they want to make more, it'd be so easy to have a jumping off point.
I think I have a better example then.
Okay.
Looper. I never want to see another Looper movie, because that movie is so self-contained.
The audience can't see that I'm thumbs upping you.
But that movie is crazy self-contained.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time travel, which kind of relates to Terminator. That is like, I never want to see anything about that, other than it just makes me want to keep watching the movie because it's so cool. The one movie that's out.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is, I think in the Upgrade TV show that Lee Winnell is involved.
Cool.
Some way, like writing. I think writing.
Oh, if he's writing it, it's gonna be so good.
Well, and we already, the series we just covered was Insidious, and Lee Winnell wrote all of those movies.
He's one of the best writers currently working in Hollywood.
So,
I'll say it.
So we know he can do a series if he wants.
Yeah.
But all of that to say,
yeah, he's a guy that's like, if you got more of a story to tell, I'll listen.
Yeah. I feel like an easier sequel to Terminator 2 for me would be, and I'm guessing this is what Salvation is about. I haven't seen it. But to me, it seems like, you do a prequel that's actually in the future where John Connor sends the first Terminator.
Yeah. I don't remember even anything about that movie.
Okay.
Other than Anton Yelchin's in it, and I kind of maybe remember who he is, but I don't even want to look it up to remind myself.
But that's what I would... That's like the slam dunk sequel. But if you're going to do another threat, I like the idea you brought up. that maybe the world is worse off that Judgment Day didn't happen or something
Again,
like that.
See 11/22/63 written by Stephen King.
Yes.
As an example for that.
But maybe by the end of this podcast, we'll crack it. But before we get there, I want to talk to you, my friends, about how this movie was made, because it's a pretty fascinating history here. So it's directed by Jonathan Mastow, who did U571 and Surrogates. Screenplay John Brancato, who also wrote Terminator Salvation. He also wrote Catwoman, starring Halle Berry.
Okay.
Zoinks. And he wrote The Game, directed by David Fincher, with Michael Douglas.
Oh, I've not seen that movie.
I always forget you haven't. We need to watch that movie. It's good. Michael Ferris is his writing partner, so he's on all those as well. Story, John Brancato, Michael Ferris, and then in addition to those two guys, it's Teddy Serafian. I don't know. She or he, I'm not sure, did Altergeist and Tank Girl, stuff that I've never seen or heard of. The music is by Marco Beltrami, who did the 2020 movie Love and Monsters, A Quiet Place 2, Underwater, Ford v Ferrari, Velvet Buzzsaw, Free Solo.
Wait, this guy's a cinematographer?
Music.
Okay, sorry.
Logan.
Because if he did Velvet Buzzsaw,
oh, zoinks.
that's a very ugly movie.
And then Fantastic Four. So we've actually talked about him on our Halloween special.
Cool.
Cinematography, Don Burgess, who did Conjuring 2. And
Nice.
he is like a Zemeckis guy. He's done Castaway, Forrest Gump.
Marwin.
I think he did Marwin. And he also did Aquaman, so he's kind of a Juan guy.
He's a Juan head.
And he did the original Spider-Man, Sam Raimi movie. So I don't know. My guess is the bracket's not over, but by the time this episode comes out, the bracket will be over. My guess is we're going to be talking about him in a couple of weeks again, because we're going to be covering Spider-Man.
Very premature to be saying that based on where we're at with the bracket right now.
I know. I was surprised that Chronicles of Narnia made it to round 2.
Yeah,
so
same here.
We'll see. And it looks like Rush Hour might beat out Transformers, which is sort of a surprise to me as well. So, but we'll see.
That's not. I had a feeling that I would love if Rush Hour got close.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I just thought that people would like to listen to us
I bet
about Transformers.
people saw that Rush Hour was an option, and it's like, oh my gosh, when was the last time I watched this movie? Vote for that one.
Have you seen those?
Not on TV.
Oh, okay. I've never seen them. So that'd be totally new.
I remember a really cool action sequence, and then it was funny. That's my memory as a kid.
That seems like what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so the movie comes out July 2nd, 2003. The budget is $200 million. It makes domestically 150.3 and worldwide 433.3. So it does okay. And that's pretty good, but that's like 17% less than the first movie. So now let's talk about the rights. So Gail Ann Hurd, the producer on the first movie, owned 50% of the rights to franchise, and the company Coralco owned the other 50. Remember, Cameron sold his rights for $1 so that he could direct the first movie.
Oh.
Yeah. And then in 1995, Coralco filed...
Wait, so is that coming back to bite him? Okay.
Yeah. In 1995, Coralco files for bankruptcy, and Cameron starts writing Terminator 3 because he's
yeah.
He's jazzed off of Terminator 2D. And then Fox signs a $50 million deal to get all of Coralco's assets. But when Canal Plus, another production company, bids 58, Fox withdraws. Eventually, rights would be sold in bankruptcy court. So
This is weird.
Yeah. So then Fox started working with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton and Cameron, hoping to gain leverage so they could secure the rights to franchise and say, we have the team.
Wait, Fox's?
Yes.
Wow.
So Fox is still trying to
Playing
get the
dirty
rights.
a little bit?
Well, they're friends with Cameron and stuff. So they're like, look, we have the team. Yeah. Cameron's writing. Like, give us those rights. And then Fox was claiming that with the purchasing of the rights, which would have cost them over $58 million because of where it's at, a $95 million budget, and Arnold wanting $25 million for the movie, they just couldn't swing it. The budget to this movie would be way too high.
Yeah.
And so then bidding begins with Miramax. So now it's like at a standstill. Like, people don't have the Terminator rights. They're just like trying to figure stuff out. And then September 1997, Cameron invites a couple of friends over to his house. Vajna and Kassar, I think are their names.
Those are aliens.
To watch a rough cut of Titanic. While they're hanging out.
And it was 5 hours long.
It probably was. While they're hanging out, they learn that the Terminator rights are still floating around.
The aliens?
Yes, the
It
aliens.
becomes an international.
the
big war,
aliens.
Or not international, intergalactic.
And so they start bidding for the rights. His
Okay.
two friends, Vajna and Kassar.
Yeah.
And Bill Mechanic, who is the head of Fox at the time, got upset that they spent so much time negotiating with Cameron, Hamilton, and Arnold, and the rights were now being sold to Vajna, Cameron's friend, for $7.5 million. That's
it?
That's just the rights for the movie. The other one was if Fox bought the entire rights of that whole company.
Yeah, okay.
And so Cameron didn't know that his friends were bidding on the movie, and he's like, why would you guys not tell me about this?
Yeah, that's weird.
So he's pissed.
Not very good friends, right?
I guess. And
I
eventually...
mean, they probably don't understand human customs.
Eventually... Vajna gets the rights for $8 million, and Fox is like, we got to drop out because the budget of Titanic keeps going up.
Yeah, and keeps getting longer.
And then Cameron eventually says, you know what? I'm okay with Arnold and Hamilton making their own movie, and I'm not even interested in doing it anymore.
I don't... Kind of don't blame him.
Oh, I totally get it. And Arnold initially is like, I'm not doing it without Cameron.
Yeah.
That's what Arnold says.
And then they said, how about this much money?
Well, then Vajna says, and this is a quote, Vajna was surprised that Cameron would be upset about the rights being sold, later saying, what difference does it make to Jim who's financing the movie, a studio or us? His deal would have been the same. Arnold tried to convince Jim over a long period of time to do the film. Arnold felt very loyal. Vajna said that Cameron felt that we stole his baby, even though we're the ones who put it together last time round. So we felt that that was kind of strange, and then we went on to do it ourselves. So then, if you saw at the beginning the C2 Pictures, that's Vajna's company.
Yeah.
And we're almost... Yeah, oh, actually, that's the end of the rights situation.
Okay.
So they have the rights, and they're able to convince Arnold to come on, and Cameron's like, not into doing it. And I have the production of the actual movie, but I'd like to hear about actors first.
Jeez.
It's crazy. Isn't that crazy?
That is wild. Yeah, that's really weird. Okay, so we have in this movie Nick Stahl, who plays John Connor. He is in Sin City, The Man Without a Face.
Yeah, that's a Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah.
And that put Nick Stahl on the map as like a child star.
I've never seen this movie.
I have not seen it either. My grandma Blanche told me to watch it one time, probably 13 years ago.
And you haven't.
I haven't.
You didn't take her up on it. He's also in some indie stuff, some TV stuff. He's in House of Lies, Lock and Key, Body of Proof, Afghan Luke, The Speed of Thought,
okay.
Dead Awake. Oh, and Mirrors 2. And then Kristana Loken.
Is she the TX model?
Yes.
Okay.
She's in Blood Rain, In the Name of the King, Dark Stories, Purity Falls. You look at the cover of that movie. Not a lot of purity in it. Lethal Weapon,
Well,
The Show.
Can I do a joke about In the Name of the Father? Did you say in the Name of the King? You said?
Yeah.
Okay, here's my joke. In the name of the King.
Wow.
You too.
Wow. Yeah, she's in a lot of TV too. As well.
Tell me about Claire Danes.
Claire Danes is in Homeland. She is Homeland. She's Land's home. She's also in My So-Called Life, Romeo plus Juliet. Oh, she's Juliet in Romeo plus Juliet. Didn't know that. A Kid Like Jake. She's in Brigsby Bear, which I don't remember.
She must be his sister.
Yeah.
I think he had a sister.
Yeah.
That's a good movie, folks. If you haven't watched that,
and it has Mark Hamill in it.
It's got Mark Hamill. I think he's just a voice, but it's still...
No, he's Dad. He's Dada.
Oh yeah.
He's in it.
It's a good movie, and it's very heartwarming, I would say.
It really is. Yeah. She is also in Master of None, which I also don't remember. And then she is Temple Grandin, which she won a Golden Globe for.
Yeah. Or maybe an Emmy, or maybe both.
There was a TV movie.
Yes, it was.
Right.
For HBO, which is a really great movie. I recently rewatched it.
Really good.
And it totally holds up. It's a very good movie.
Oh, Catherine O'Hara's in that movie.
Yeah, she's her mother.
Oh.
Yeah.
She probably knocks it out of the friggin' park.
Well, what is her name Catherine O'Hara?
Yeah.
Then she knocked it out of the park.
Oh, okay.
She's perfect.
Okay, then we also have David Andrews, who plays the father of Claire Danes.
Who she is about to be a bride, so he would be the father of the bride.
He would, but he's not in that movie.
No.
He's in Fight Club, though.
What? Who is he?
He plays Thomas. Who's Thomas? I don't know. He's probably...
one of the fighters? Well, that movie doesn't have a lot of guys in it, so I'm trying to think.
I know. It should be just
is.
like so easy, shouldn't it?
It's mostly a female cast.
I feel like I see his face.
Yeah. That's a good movie. We rewatched that recently, and that movie I feel like it's aging better than most.
It takes on new meanings every time I watch it, because
really does.
I watch it every couple years, and you're always at a different spot in your life. So when you watch it when you're like high school, college age, it's like mind blowing. Like, oh my gosh, this is truth.
Yeah.
And then you watch it a couple years later, and it's like, that's messed up, but it's still got some truth to it. And I wonder what it'll be the next couple times I watch it.
Well, I think it's one of those cool movies that when you're young, you kind of like the movie kind of tricks you.
I think so too. Definitely.
And then the older you get, the more you're like, this is so satirical.
Yeah.
And the commentating on like masculine culture,
Yeah.
it is like the older I get, the more I'm shocked that I could ever think that this movie was not self-aware of what it is.
Yeah.
And that it's like indicting masculine culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm. It's just like a lot of Chuck Palahniuk books, I think.
Yeah.
Or it's that whole, a lot of nihilism stuff.
Well, a lot of Chuck Palahniuk's, maybe all of his books.
Yeah, that's true. But he is really good.
Yeah,
he's also, okay, David Andrews is also in Apollo 13, and he's also in Watchmen, the show. Deputy director, ... Wait, let's see.
Okay.
Deputy director, Farragut.
I don't know.
There are a lot of people in that movie, too. He's also in The Boys.
Wait, he was in the
that everyone
movie or
tells
the
us to
show?
watch. The show.
Okay.
He's in the show The Boys. He's also in the show Shooter. Wow. And NCIS, but so is everyone else. And then, okay, I'll just do one more.
Okay. I have a lot of notes left, so you can take up as much time as you'd like, Jordan.
Mark Femi Gialetti plays the fiance, Scott Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
He is also in Aquarius. He is in Mad Men, How to Get Away with Murder, Rediscovering Christmas, The Missing Sister. A lot of movies.
I recognized him, but I couldn't put my finger on from what.
I think we just see him in a lot of.
Yeah.
I think he's just like
he's a working actor. Okay, is that all your fellas?
Yeah, but look at the cover of this movie. It's the same as Get Out, and it also has her in it.
Oh, we've talked about this on
Did
the
we talk
podcast.
about this recently?
Yeah, we talked about this trailer. Is that
he's in it.
Catherine Keener?
Yeah.
So we talked about that on our Incredibles 2 episode, which is only available on patreon.com. I've
And it
gotten
has the
3
girl
Patreon.
From Devil All the Time. No, that's not. Yes, that is. No, it's not. How annoying is this?
You didn't even say what the title of that movie is, so people can
We
look
Don't
at.
Belong Here.
Yeah, check out that poster because it's the same as Get Out. They copied it.
Danielle Joe was so good.
So I'm jumping back in here. So they originally hoped to get this film shooting in the year 2000 and shoot 2 movies at once, Terminator 3 and Terminator 4. By July 2000, Cameron had been given a copy of
Cameron, not camera.
Oh, Cameron had been given a copy of Seraphian's script, and the script had a female Terminator that can go invisible. But he passed on directing the film due to his estranged relationship with the producers. Yeah. And Cameron...
It's kind of like respect that they would offer it to him first, though.
Yeah. And Cameron later stated that he refused to direct or produce Terminator 3 because he disliked the idea of working from somebody else's script in a story he originated. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. And then Mostow, this director, signs on and has college classmates Brancata and Ferris work on the script.
What a gig.
Yeah. And then December 2001, the studios compete for film distribution rights between Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers wins the rights, and then Columbia TriStar wins international rights. So all told, the film's production budget was initially set at 169 to 170 million, making it the most expensive film ever to be greenlit at the time. The budget would include paying off the debts of Coralco, as well as a $5 million salary for Mostow and a record $30 million salary for Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. But the budget statements for the film put the final cost at $187.3 million or $167.3 million, excluding the production overhead. And Schwarzenegger received a record salary of $29.25 million plus 20% of the profits.
What?
So
that's a lot. That's a big percentage.
He probably made around 50 million, I would guess.
At least.
And here's something wild. Edward Furlong, John Connor, was set to be John Connor in this movie. And if you read about it, he's just like, and then all of a sudden they were like shooting the movie and there was another guy.
What?
They didn't really follow up with him or.
That sucks. That makes no sense.
And then
that makes me mad for him.
I know. It would have been cool. I feel like since he was in Terminator 2D, even though I think that this guy did a much better acting job, it's kind of like, you should have just had him do it.
That's what I feel.
Like, I feel like he's too, even though he would look different, it's like, just let him do it.
I was just looking at this one as he's much older.
Right.
Than the actor.
And then Hamilton has a couple thoughts on why she didn't do Terminator 3.
Okay.
And if you didn't like Linda Hamilton before, you're going to like her now. Because Hamilton declines showing up in the movie as it didn't offer her character anything new. They offered me a part, I read it and knew my character arc was so complete in the first two, and in the third one, it was a negligible character. She died halfway through, and there was no time to mourn her. It was kind of disposable, so I said, no thank you.
Applause.
Yeah.
Big applause.
And then Cameron saw the movie when it came out, and he said, one word, great. So Cameron was able to look past all of everything and his feelings, and he was like, I liked that movie.
That's good. I hope he meant it.
So do you want to talk about Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines? Rise! Machines, rise! That was maybe one of the problems. There wasn't a mad scientist yelling, rise,
maybe
machines,
in the next
rise. One. There certainly could be. So the beginning of the movie shows John Connor, and it's this, he's kind of seeing the world, and he's saying, I'm plagued by visions, I live on the move, how do you adjust to life when you are humanity's salvation?
Yeah.
But you also prevented that. All of this going on, he's riding around on a motorcycle. It's funny that he stays in LA.
I know, like go to the middle of a forest.
Yeah.
Live in a cabin.
To stay off the grid. He's in one of the most populated cities in America.
Yeah.
But, whatever. He does have to get little jobs, so that kind of makes sense.
But you wouldn't if you just lived off the land.
Yeah, and he would have the means to do that.
Pretty much taught him how to do that.
Yeah. But all of this, I'm kind of going, this is cool. I liked this intro. I liked this idea of getting into the psychology of John Connor.
Uh-huh.
And, there's, if they'd have played on it more, there's kind of an irony to him being the salvation of Earth or humanity, but then once they are able to stop it from happening in Terminator 2, he is now like not really living a life.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of irony.
Well, it's like
there.
Now he has no potential.
And he kind of has no purpose except to just survive in case something happens. Because he knows, I guess he is the guy still, maybe.
Yeah.
So there's all of that. And then TX shows up. And I would love for you to take over with TX.
She shows up in like a department store window.
Mm-hmm.
She does not take any of the clothes off of the dummies or mannequins, which just would have made a lot of sense.
Oh, come on.
Instead, she walks over to a lady sitting in her car and kills her and takes her clothes. So now she's driving this nice car and this woman's clothes. She, right off the bat, they show you that she's far more advanced than even Robert Patrick. So she gets the lady's cell phone and like hacks into it and learns locations of people, right? Like she like downloads information into her. And then so she's driving around. She gets pulled over. She's driving around erratically.
This is why I wanted you to take over for this
Gets pulled
part.
over by a cop. And as he's walking up, she sees a Victoria's Secret billboard about what's sexy. And she makes her boobs big.
They grow in real time.
Yeah.
And then she like flirts with the police officer.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really feel like giving any attention to it.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's kind of a little disorienting.
Yeah, throughout the movie, I feel like this actress does just really provocative things too.
Yeah.
And you know, she's just being a robot, so she's very stone faced. But I feel like she has a lot of expression on her face for being a robot, as compared to Arnold and Robert Patrick.
Sure.
And you know, maybe you chalk that up to she's a more updated model. I don't know, model of robot.
I don't think it's. I don't know. It didn't feel like it really. This is the only moment that kind of crosses over into maybe like, that's a little too much.
Yeah, but like, remember when she like tastes the blood of that lady and like the way she does it? It's
yeah,
like,
that was pretty weird.
Come on, and it's like it's cool what she's doing to taste someone's blood to know the DNA.
Yeah.
But it's sexy how she does it.
Yeah, although, I mean, I could imagine a male actor doing it exactly the same. And you'd
not
take it
like
as,
that. Not like that.
You'd take it as brooding if a guy did it, I think.
I can explain further off mic why it was provocative.
More provocative. Okay, I guess you're right. When
It was very slow, and provocative.
Yeah.
I don't know what more to say. It's kind of like, I guess I'm expecting this. Also, it's 2003.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right. Okay, so let's keep moving. We find out there's this general, and they still have Skynet, the satellite, and he's like hesitant to use it. Now, so it's just weird that like in the second movie they put so much emphasis on Miles being the only one who like knew this stuff and worked on the technology. So it's all destroyed. And then they're like, we have that same exact technology.
We have the AI. All we need to do is put in a password and it can take control.
Yeah.
And the guy is like, I don't trust computers that much.
Yeah.
Until like the next time we see him is him receiving a call from a superior saying, use it or you're fired. And he's like, well, okay.
And so then the general's daughter is someone we're going to be talking about later. But so we see all that. Arnold, when he shows up, he's in like Joshua Tree, and they did a very nice touch that the sand around him turned to glass because of all the lightning.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Liked that. When he goes into the bar, which is just so weird. So if you want to go through, I guess these are like Puritan robots, I guess, because he walks into the bar and there's women wearing clothing, and he looks at this one woman, and it says inappropriate. What she's wearing is inappropriate. So
robots have opinions now.
Yeah, they have like code of ethics, like dress code. They're like, nah, this girl's wearing something inappropriate. Destroy.
And then I'm gonna take a stripper's clothing.
Yeah. So that was weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
This movie also had I believe it's this movie has a deleted scene, Jordan, where it shows a guy who's like programming the robots, and it looks into a screen, and he's like this kind of nerdy looking guy, but he has Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. Like they overdubbed Arnold Schwarzenegger because they wanted to explain why the robots have the Terminator, like Arnold's voice. Which I'm glad they cut it because that's like, we don't need an explanation. Literally no one cares that he has
Romanian.
an Austrian.
He's Austrian. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's cool. But they felt the need to fill the scene that explains
that sucks. Why. Gosh,
I'll have
only
to show
in
it to
the
you.
2000s.
Well, that seems like something someone would do now.
I guess. It's just we were watching this movie and it's like the 90s and early 2000s just really feel like a time where we were really out of touch. with a lot of things.
Yeah. But anyway, all this business happens. TX is killing some random people. We don't know who they are or why. And then we see John Connor go into a veterinary clinic and like
because he
nurses wounds.
Got in a motorcycle accident, so he's
stitching
himself up.
That. Yeah,
takes some medicine. Earlier we had seen Claire Danes at like a Macy's home doing like a registry because she's engaged. So we meet her and her fiance, and that's when she talks to her dad and is like, "I don't know if he's the right one," and he's like, "I've never been scared for you. You've always made the right choice." That's what happens. So then...
Yeah, which I guess pays off later when you find out she's John Connor's wife.
Well, also, too, when her fiance dies, it's like, oh, well, I guess she doesn't have to worry about that for the rest of her life. So she gets a call, like, really early in the morning saying, you got to go to the vet. There's, like, an emergency with a cat. So she goes there, finds John, puts him in a cage, like a kennel. And
she for someone who's like trained in military stuff from Linda Hamilton, she sure hands it to him in like 2 seconds.
I think he's just, well, no, he took a lot of drugs, remember?
Oh, that's right.
He took like the whole bottle.
Okay.
The whole bottle. So yeah, she puts him in a kennel and then is just trying to take care of the lady with the cat.
Yeah.
And then, meanwhile, while all of this is happening, someone else breaks in. Oh my gosh, it couldn't get worse. So she has to like run away or hide.
Yeah.
And so then she's a TX, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
She is trying to find her, but you think, before that she killed some random people. She was going around killing random people that we didn't know who they were.
I said that exact sentence.
So sorry. I think I floated off somewhere.
Oh, I know.
So... when she was here, did you think that she was gonna? Yeah, she was looking for her.
Yeah, she was looking for Catherine Brewster.
Yeah.
And so, all of it because someone had said something about John Connor, and her ears kind of perked up. But I was like, why is she killing all these other people? And I think the twist of because she's killing them because they wind up being his lieutenants in the future war. I kind of like that twist. That's kind of a fun thing, but it is just because you edit what she does, it doesn't mean that it's an original story. You know what I mean?
I hate this so much.
Oh, you hate it? It
is so self-indulgent. It's insane to me.
Okay, tell me why you hate it.
Because we've already gone through the 2 movies where the 2 things make sense why robots would come back to kill him. First, Sarah Connor to prevent the pregnancy, which is kind of like a theory that we've had before. So it's kind of fun to see it dramatized. Yeah. And then we have the next movie where, they failed, which means she gave birth. Because in the first movie, remember they destroyed the machine that would allow them to go back. So it's like by the time the second movie rolls around and he's like a teenager, they've figured it out again, and by that time they can come back and just kill him. No big deal.
Yeah.
Love that stuff. Makes so much sense. This movie, it's like maybe some stuff in the second movie didn't happen. We'll figure it out as we write the script. Well, we don't really know. And then, I guess they got to come back to kill somebody, right? How would they just come back to kill his friends?
When you put it that way, I mean, you're right.
It's like, why not just go back farther? Why do they have to go to this past? Couldn't they just go back to, when he was a kid again? Or when Sarah was...
Well, that opens a whole can of worms.
I know it does, but don't you see that's the issue?
Right. If you keep making movies,
it's so convoluted.
That's why I think, as far as the lore of this universe, a much better sequel to me would have been about a reestablishment of. I know that the whole thing is time travel and the Terminator, but it feels like a better movie would have had to do with Skynet and them building it, and. I don't know, maybe Linda Hamilton, if she was into it, her and John Connor are I can't believe they're making it again. And they're trying to stop them and they're unable to do so. But that also sounds like the plot. It does feel like Terminator 2 covered all the basis of what you could do.
Yeah. Or it's what they could have, another possibility is, so the second movie happens, they destroy everything. And then this movie does take place after August 29th, 1997.
Yeah.
So, which means, they did prevent that.
Right.
So that still happens, all that stuff. But now Skynet, like these companies are still a thing. They're trying to still, create the most innovative things in the world. Maybe Sarah and John figure out how to help or how to I don't know, make it not something that's going to take over humanity because it so easily could. Maybe they don't even be in the movie, but just something like that, if that makes sense. And then of course it goes wrong and they have to fix it.
Or maybe the movie, but it's that whole thing where when a franchise when it rises above the point of it's just a story in a movie people like, but it's an icon, Star Wars.
Yeah.
There is a certain expectation when you go into a Star Wars movie of what is going to happen and what you're going to see. And when you go outside of that expectation, see The Last Jedi, the fans of it get very mad and angry. And they're like, no, you're not allowed to do that. But I think that Terminator 3 needed to be that. Where it's like, no, we're not, Arnold's not going to be in it. Mm-hmm. And maybe we're going to talk about building this future that's even worse than what would have happened, because I like that idea. And maybe there's no Arnold, and it's
he wouldn't even exist anymore.
Like a whole different breed of machines that don't look like the Terminators, or something like that. But that's also a huge gamble. What studio is going to be like, yeah, we like that you're taking Terminator away from the one Arnold and those machines, the main things about it.
Yeah, doesn't it mean, so because this TX and Arnold came back in this movie, that means right off the bat that what they did in the last movie didn't work? Because they shouldn't even exist.
Yeah.
This is dumb.
Well, it it means that what they
literally means no other movies should exist in the future.
I know, that's and I would be curious because it said, in the notes, Cameron said he was writing a third movie.
Would love to know if he had any ideas.
Yeah, and I want to know what he thought was trying to do.
Yeah.
But my thought is even though I haven't seen it, with a title like Terminator Dark Fate, and the whole thing where Sarah Connor's, scratching no fate in Terminator 2, maybe that movie is what we're talking about right now, where they're like, oh, it's worse now.
Yeah.
And that's why they're disregarding the other sequels.
Right.
I remember when that came out and I was just like, no, we don't need more stop making these movies. But now I'm really anxious to watch that movie because it seems like maybe that one makes a nice trilogy.
Yeah.
So that'll be super interesting. But let's get back on this one. Huge fight at the veterinarian clinic. And there's some fun stuff in here. Claire Danes gets brought into the animal truck in the back.
She's put in the back of her truck and locked in it by Arnold.
More precise
Arnold's
way to say it.
Well, yeah. So Arnold's basically get in here for now, and he needs to go find John because when the TX sees John, basically it's mission has changed. Kill John.
Yeah.
Because she found him. So yeah, a big explosion happens because he drives in. Oh, yeah, remember the truck drives over Claire Danes?
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. They fight a little bit. You see that the TX is really, really strong, maybe even stronger than the Robert Patrick T-1000. And then, ambulances and fire trucks start showing up. Things get nuts. And then Arnold, John, and Claire Danes get away.
Oh, we're just going to kind of skip over the crane?
No, that's coming next.
They get
out of the vet.
Sorry.
So they are in the truck driving. I think Claire Danes' performance is really good as a hostage. Yeah. She's very confused. All she wants to do is get out because it has nothing to do with her. And she continues to try to scream for help and get out. It's very believable.
Well, I like how later in the movie when they're at the gravesite of Linda Hamilton and she just gets away at the first chance she gets.
That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, instead of being well,
and that's the moment.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the moment where it's proven to her that Arnold is it's not human.
Yeah,
and if anything, I would probably still run.
Yeah, but I think the person, because we'll get there. But the crane sequence. This sequence is cool. Mm-hmm. I like this sequence. I mean, some of the effects have aged a little bit, but that building that they drag Arnold through, that shatters and stuff. That they built that building and they did that.
Yeah.
And they had kind of a one go, let's do it. I mean, Arnold is not on it.
Obviously.
But
yeah, it looks really good.
And I think it took them 2 weeks or so to like build that, or maybe it was 6. It might have been 6 weeks to build that, and then they have to like do it, time all the explosions properly and stuff like that.
That's such a stressful thing.
But they had that real crane, and they were driving it around destroying stuff. It's cool because Arnold's stuntman is like running all over the place on this crane, and then he defeats it by dropping, I don't know what those are called, like the anchor of the crane down into a sewage drain.
Yeah.
And it goes down, and then it makes the crane flip over itself.
Yeah.
And it was cool in the special features. They were like, yeah, we were wondering how we could do that, but the liability and stuff of, because
flipping it
originally they were like, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
But they were like, the liability is way too high. A lot could go wrong. And it's just funny because they said, yeah, we'll just do it in VFX. And I was like, that's interesting because in the first movie, they have like the best looking miniature explosion ever.
Yeah, and they didn't do miniatures.
And it would have been cool if the crane was a miniature.
Yeah.
I think.
But it's early 2000s.
It is. And
it
is. And this whole series is like, they're trying to push the boundaries on special effects.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame them for that. It's just like,
I think it still looks pretty good.
Yeah.
They did a good job.
Yeah.
And the good guys get away for now.
Yeah. And they go to a cemetery.
And they're driving, and this is all exposition for a while. Which,
and this is when they explain
honestly,
it's been
postponed. I had a really hard time paying attention.
Yeah.
Because, as we just talked about to death, how convoluted the movie is.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, I don't even know if I care to know how this works. And I had to fight that.
Uh-huh.
So, he's explaining all the exposition, the second movie, like we did all that stuff. How come you're still here? And he's explaining it. Clearly I didn't listen because I don't know what he said, but Arnold takes something out of him, like a tracker thing.
It's a fuel cell.
I don't know why he took it out.
It was dying.
Okay. Throws it, explosion, because it can't survive outside in the open air.
Yeah.
So it's a gun in the closet situation. More exposition.
Well, one thing they explain is that John Connor in the future actually we find out later it's
this is not until we get into the RV.
Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah. I'll save it then. But so they go to the gravesite of Sarah Connor, which is like it's one of those off-screen deaths, and as someone who watches franchises and movies and stuff, you're like well, you're like, okay, so Linda Hamilton didn't want to be in this movie. It's just so obvious.
Which, like, they have to explain why she's not in the movie. They really do.
They do. And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean,
they were going to kill her anyway, so why not just continue to kill her, even if she's not going to be in the movie?
Yeah. But it is kind of like, oh, this really, it would be like if they made an Alien movie.
And they couldn't get the alien to come back.
Well, I was going to say, like, Sigourney Weaver, they're like, oh, yeah, she died a couple of hours ago. And you're like, wait, like the person, the one we know and love, she's just not. That's pretty lame.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that someday.
Whenever.
But so they go into the tomb, and there are guns galore. Police show up. TX shows up. The psychiatrist from the first movie shows up, which is like
I loved his little moment.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't really makes sense, but it's the kind of indulgent.
He's like the trauma counselor. So he shows up to these traumatic scenes.
And he basically implies that you can think that you experienced a lot of crazy things. So he implies that
he kind of like gets this far off stare, and he's like, anything.
Yeah.
You can make anything go away.
So he's basically saying, I still don't believe what I saw in the last movie.
Even though it was probably the most nightmarish thing he has ever seen in his life.
Yeah. And so that's his little cameo. And then she's attacked, Brewster. And then they all get back together.
In a hearse.
In a hearse, and they drive away.
TX is trying to saw through the hood of the hearse. And they're whipping her around, trying to get her off. They use some of the guns because they took the casket. Arnold's walking around with a casket, by the way.
Which is a nice image. Arnold with a huge like soldering gun and then a casket. He's shooting at the police.
It plays for fun laughs for me. And then they get her away again. And then they're at an RV, and then we have more. This is like the moment of like John's like, what is going on? Like because of what he learned from the last movie, he's like, you have to follow my orders.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I don't. I was not programmed to follow your orders. So Arnold's like, my operation is to keep you both safe no matter what. Because he does say that like the world's end is still happening.
Yeah.
So we just need to get basically into a cave and wait.
Yeah.
So that's when John, Claire Danes finds out her fiance's dead. So she's dealing with that for a minute. And then John is threatening to kill himself if the Terminator does not take them to Skynet to stop everything from happening.
Yeah.
Big tension-filled moment, and then Terminator agrees to take them.
Yeah.
To Skynet.
So, two things I wanted to say. One, so back when TX was attacking them, again, it is funny because if you're following the formula of the second movie, it's like you have to go bigger and better.
Mm-hmm.
And that only works like one time usually to go bigger and better.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's just funny. And we did actually talk about this in our T2 3D episode where it's like, okay, you have the first Terminator. He's an unstoppable killing machine. You have the second Terminator. He can transform into stuff and liquefy.
Transform into sharp objects. That's it.
Yeah. And then you have the T1 million, which is on our episode on Patreon. And then on this movie, you have the TX and it's like, ooh, what's the new advancement? She has guns and like a flamethrower as well.
She can hack into stuff.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I don't know what the bigger and better thing would be, but it is how do you improve? Like the T1000 is such a killing unstoppable machine, and you really believe he's unstoppable that when it shows up and they're like, but this time it's female. You're like, what? That's not enough for me.
I noticed that this movie compared to the last one, when she's getting shot at, she doesn't even but like momentum doesn't even push her back. When in the last movie, Robert Patrick
that's their big thing. They're like, this time the bullets don't slow her down.
But I think honestly, that's part of it. Part of their advancement.
Yeah.
And she just can continue to walk towards you.
But and then the second thing is, and when they're in the RV and they're driving to Skynet, you find out that Catherine is the one who sent the Terminator back because John Connor was killed.
Yes, that's right.
And you find out that they get married. And I like that in theory. I don't like it because they upended, Terminator 2.
Yeah, and to me it does sweeten the whole why TX came back at all. Like it does make it like, okay, that's a little bit better. And I understand why I had to wait this long because it is a twist. I get that.
Yeah.
Just still not a fan of it though.
And then she sends back the 101 model or the 100 model because he's like partial to that model because when he grew up as a kid, Terminator 2.
Well, that's what kills him.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, I was not.
Because they ask how John dies and Terminator killed him because the bad guys sent him to him because they knew that he would trust him for all the reasons you just explained.
That's right. Yes. So, yeah, there's all that kind of weird.
Mm.
And then they get to Skynet, right? Can we skip to that?
Yeah.
And what I really like about this scene is there are the like first models, the T1s, and they're driving around and they look a lot different. And it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like back in the day, they had these small models and then they're going to keep upgrading.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot. And they're not like very smart or anything like that.
Well, they're not even intelligent. They're intelligent to the point of like good guy, bad guy, kill, don't.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much kill everything because that's what the artificial intelligence tells it to do.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, there's been a virus in computers that
which is why they release the AI.
They force the general to do the AI, and he's like, I don't want to do it, and he does it, and then it starts going haywire.
Yeah.
So it like kills all these people, big fights, vroom vroom, scary, and then they're like, oh my gosh, we have to go to this place that the general's like, he's dying, and he says, yeah, you have to go to this place, and then you could shut down like the motherboard of Skynet. And then they go to that place.
Well, are you going to skip over like the hangar scene?
Well, I think that's where I'm at, right? Where the helicopter comes in and...
Oh, yeah, I guess. No, okay, well, remember this, though?
Okay.
TX, Terminator are fighting it out. And TX basically decapitates Terminator, basically. They're still wiring.
Right.
And then you see she does something, you're like, okay, she's reprogramming him to be bad.
I actually didn't track that, funny enough.
Oh, okay.
It is very obvious when you pointed out, and when I got to it, I was like, how did I think sometimes too, though, in
you
movies.
You get so wrapped up in what's going on.
I get wrapped up, and I don't like, I'm not someone, occasionally I do want to guess the twist, like if I'm watching a whodunit, because it's fun.
Oh, you don't like it when people say that was so obvious?
But, well, I don't like it when people say that, and I don't like to go into a movie being like, I'm going to figure it out so that I can prove to everyone who went to this movie with me that I'm smarter than them.
I guess, like, this moment in particular, though, because we're past all the twists. There are no more twists.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. There is one other big twist. But usually in, like, a movie where there's something like this, like fighting, and then something happens where, like, someone falls down a pit and you think they died and they didn't. Never trust someone if they fell down a pit because they're not dead.
Especially Star Wars.
Nobody
dies if they fall.
And Lord of the Rings. When Gollum falls down the pit in Shelob's lair.
Oh, yeah. But he does fall into a vat of lava.
Yeah, but we see him die.
No,
I'm
know.
Talking about the first one. Anyway.
Also, Gandalf falls down
when
a
you,
pit.
like, a lot of the times when, like, a big major character, it's like their end. You can kind of, like, sometimes depending on what movie number it is. I feel like a computer right now. What movie number it is, what time run we're in the movie, all that stuff. You see that they have been defeated, and then you see the bad guy maybe hang around for a couple more seconds to do something. It's like, okay, we got like 30, 45 more minutes of this movie. That's what I mean by it's so obvious.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of
and it's okay to have that opinion, but sometimes, you know, when you're watching a movie and someone's like, oh my gosh, I called that, and you're like, yeah,
no, I'm not a fan of that, especially when you start the movie and it's like, I know I'm gonna figure this out in 10 minutes, like first 10 minutes of this movie. It's
like, just be quiet and then
just
don't prove it to me later that you were able to guess someone died, because you could probably look at every character and be like, one of them's gonna die, that's my guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's annoying to me. But Catherine shoots up Robot, and he replies, you remind me of my mother. Very Freudian. What am I talking about? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
John says that to Catherine.
After she shoots up a T1.
Yeah.
And he's like, you remind me of my mother. And it's like, ew. What?
It's weird.
So then, Arnold reawakens. He attacks him in the hangar.
But he's still conscious. Like, she didn't reprogram enough that she took away his sentience. So, like, he is trying to tell John, like, run away.
Yeah, and he's able to shut himself down. Mm-hmm. Which I liked that element of it.
Yeah.
They escape. They get to the hangar, and then they break into it, or the bunker, rather.
Sure.
They break into it. Arnold and the TX show up, and
how'd they get there?
They flew by.
No, how did the Terminators get there?
They flew as well.
Okay.
The TX flew a helicopter into it, and then like 2 minutes later, Arnold flew it in, which I thought he was done.
Yeah.
Like done after he shut himself off, but then he comes back so that he can pull out a fuel cell and blow her up, which is like not nearly as cool as thumbs up into lava.
You know,
let me tell you what.
Almost cooler is she reprograms him and then forget him trying to kill John in the hangar, but he's trying to kill John in the bunker when they get there. And instead of that scene where he's like trying, you know, whatever, because he's trying to kill John, like, but with his fighting back against that call, he rips that thing out of him to blow everything up.
Yes. Yeah. That'd have been
that
cooler.
would have been it would have taken out 5 good minutes of this movie.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, and there is an element of like when he's rebooting and you're like, okay, you have to give Arnold Schwarzenegger another moment. I get it. But
that's
also
That's true. He's got 20% of this movie.
No, but I'm saying like, but also like story-wise, he fulfilled his character arc.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't need him to like redeem himself again. He redeemed himself by shutting himself down.
Yeah.
That's very cool and unheard of for the Terminator. So, and then there's a final twist in the movie that Skynet was never a physical location. It's just like in the ether.
It's in the cloud.
It's in the cloud. And so then Judgment Day happens and they're in one of the only bunkers that can withstand it. And I like that twist. Again, this upends all of Terminator 2, so that's what I don't like about it. But on its own, like, it's almost like if you detach this movie from the franchise, it's pretty cool. if you,
I like the set a lot. Like they're really confused. You have like that president's podium. Like
that was a cool wait,
like
what's
this
happening?
is where the president goes when there's a nuclear attack.
Right, and so that all of that's kind of weird and cool, and I do like the reveal, but like in Terminator, it's like, well, we already went through all of this in the last movie, so why am I here? Is how it feels.
And it so. But I guess it ends with like people calling in on the radio, like, is anyone still out there?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, the bomb was dropped, or it's all of them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, they become husband and wife because they're basically the last two people left on Earth.
Yeah.
But yeah, he calls back or answers the call and says, "I'm John. I'm in charge." So it's like kind of cool. Like,
right.
That's how he takes up the call, especially in this movie when he thought that he didn't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And I again, it's like, it's almost like it's not a bad movie, but it's a bad Terminator movie. It's kind of maybe how I feel about it. And it wasn't like hard to watch or anything. I don't think we've watched much worse movies, but I don't know. That's all I got on the movie. I think we covered it tried and true, but I do have a couple of movie announcements.
Okay.
So for one, to follow up on our Harry Potter series, Johnny Depp has announced that he was asked to resign from future Fantastic Beasts movies from Warner Brothers. So the Depp man's out. And in case we haven't discussed it, but I'm pretty sure we have, my guess is that they will make Fantastic Beasts 3. It'll be a box office bomb, and they will not make 4 and 5.
Or maybe, well, I think it'll still not do well because no one likes Harry Potter world anymore. But what if they just made a Newt movie, a Newt Scamander movie, kind of just straight up? I don't even care if they retcon the other two movies at all.
Oh no!
So they just make like the movie that I wanted, just a fun movie with him and creatures getting into hijinks.
Yeah, and take a lesson from Mandalorian.
Yeah, just make a really self-contained movie.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, I really liked that one, and I didn't think I would.
Yeah, make it sweet, not dark and stupid.
Yeah.
And then the other news that it was unfortunate because we learned this before we finished our Insidious series premiering, but we'd already recorded them.
Oh, yeah.
But they are making Insidious 5. And the big cool news about it is, Jordan.
Directed by Patrick Wilson.
His first movie is going to be Insidious 5. Which is so cool because it must be like something he really cherishes for him to put on the director's hat.
And he's the dad. And he's, it's like his baby.
And it's supposed to be the, I forget their names, but
that family.
The family from Insidious 1 and 2, it's going to be them like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how excited I would be if it wasn't
someone involved in the production.
Yeah. Like if Patrick Wilson wasn't directing it, I don't know how excited I would be. If Lee Winnell was writing it, I'd still be excited.
But he's not.
Oh, I don't know. It's still pretty preliminary.
Sign me. I mean, I'm already signed me up.
If he is,
cool. But if he is,
like
it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
So we can look forward to that. I'm sure that'll probably be in I would guess 2022.
Sure.
But they're able to make those movies so fast that who knows, maybe we'll get it next October.
And they'll probably have like a $5 million budget and it'll look amazing.
I know. It's so smart to start there.
Yeah.
Because it's a guaranteed hit for Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
But it's also like he doesn't have this huge budget that he would blow and ruin everything.
Yeah.
Like as long as he just directs competently, it'll be like, yeah, we'll give you another project. So very excited about that. And next week is Terminator Salvation. So salvation comes, I guess, in the next movie. I guess it didn't in the last 3. So we'll see about that. We've breached the halfway of Terminator, and visit my Instagram and Twitter to find out what series is after Terminator, because I don't know if we're gonna know by the time we're done recording this series. Because maybe we'll finish before the bracket's over. So thank you for listening. Oh, and rate us and review us. It's been a while. We want some more. We want those reviews. We're like Gollum. They're our precious. We need those reviews. Bye.